Next, we have Anna Dew. Anna has been the first consecutive female president at Cranbrook Kingswood Upper School since we became coeducational. That is a huge feat. She also has had her works published in many different areas all over the country and has won many awards for the work that she's done. She's also one of those girls that Mrs. Rivard has talked about in terms of reaching to her highest level and of challenging herself. One of the things she mentions is she's in a very high-level math class as only one girl with 7 other boys. She inspires us to try out something new. Today, she's going to talk a little bit about technology and how we take advantage of missing opportunities to communicate. Anna.
So the theme today is Women and Inventions, and I want to talk to you about how not having a cell phone and Facebook has allowed me to reinvent the way I communicate. So I'll start off with 8th grade. When I was in 8th grade, I had 3 personal milestones. I opened a Facebook account for the first time, I upgraded my cell phone, and my obsession with the Twilight vampire series reached an all-time high. So my cell phone and Facebook connected me to my friends, and as you can imagine, we text each other constantly, post comments on each other's Facebook walls, share pictures. Basically, 24/7, we were talking and having a lot of fun. And all this was great, except that the amount of time that I spent on my cell phone and Facebook obviously increased rapidly. Actually, just a few days ago, I was watching this funny video of these parents telling their kids that they had eaten all of their Halloween candy. And after they tell their little kids, there's like this moment of absolute silence. And then the kids just start screaming, "No, I want my candy!" So at the beginning of 9th grade, my parents come up to me and they say, "Anna, you're spending way too much time on your cell phone and Facebook, so we're going to take it away from you." And just like those little kids who thought that their parents had taken away all of their Halloween candy, I also start screaming, "No, it's not fair!" I mean, I was so devastated. How could I survive without these social lifelines? I really thought that my world was over. So days go by, and my parents still refuse to return my cell phone and Facebook. So the only thing that I could do was change my attitude about the situation. One time, I found myself sitting on the school bus next to a girl who I didn't know, and I kept wishing that I had my cell phone so I could take it out and pretend to look busy. But I couldn't, so I thought, well, what if I talk to her? And I was like, well, how do I start this conversation? Do I ask her, "What's your name?" Do I ask her, "What do you think of the weather?" Do I ask her, "Are you a freshman?" So all of these questions were going through my mind as I was debating whether to talk to her or not. And then all of a sudden, I just blurted out, "I really like your hat." And she was wearing this festive poofy thing. And she turned and looked at me and said, "Thanks, but I don't know who you are." And just like that, our conversation started. It was brief, since after all my internal debating, the bus ride by then was pretty much over. But I learned where she got her hat and what her favorite class was. If I had my cell phone, I probably wouldn't have even thought about talking to her. Without it, I got out of my bubble and formed a connection with a new friend. So I'm talking face-to-face more with my friends, which is good, but I still felt disconnected from them when I was at home. And usually I'd go home and log into my Facebook account and enjoy reading all the incessant stream of updates that would pop up. But again, I couldn't, and I felt really isolated. Then one day, I get in the mail a handwritten letter from one of my preschool friends who now lives in Texas. And she asked me how I was doing and told me about some of her activities. And as I was reading her letter, I could almost hear her voice and visualize exactly what she was describing. And all of a sudden, she didn't seem so far away anymore. From that point on, handwriting letters became my creative outlet. When I sit down to write a letter, I become an inventor. I get to choose which pen to use, what kinds of colorful stationery to write on. I get to pour out my new thoughts onto paper. I get to doodle, highlight, and stick stickers. All of this can't be done in an instant message, and it allowed me to express myself artistically, and I loved it. So then I started sending letters to all my friends, and I now dedicate a tremendous amount of time to putting together these personalized, creative inventions that are far more meaningful than instant messages. Now I've talked about face-to-face conversations and handwritten letters, which kind of go against technology, but I also want to talk about a case where technology actually does invent new opportunities for me to communicate. I love listening to National Public Radio, so I got really interested in audio podcasting and founded our school's radio club. And we interview community members and create audio podcasts, which then get published on our school website. Radio Club seeks out those stories that make our diverse community so wonderful. And I truly believe that sharing stories is fundamental to communication. It's one thing for me to write down my stories. It's another for me to actually stand here today and share my stories with you. And as I'm doing this, I'm taking a risk. I'm letting myself be vulnerable. I'm saying, these are meaningful experiences for me, and I wanted to share them with you. This is exactly what happens every time Radio Club conducts an interview. We share stories, we listen to each other, we learn from each other, and we ultimately broaden our perspectives. Radio Club, what I think is so powerful about Radio Club is the fact that our listeners can hear the stories around them come alive through voice, and even more, listeners in the future will also be able to hear these stories years from now because our podcasts have become a part of our school archives. Not having a cell phone and Facebook actually invented new opportunities for me to communicate. And I'll conclude with my underlying message. Even though inventions make it so efficient and so easy for us to communicate today, they can also distract us from the deeper connections that thrive around us. So I want to challenge each of you to reinvent communication in your life by seeking out those stories and seeking out those deeper connections with your friends and families. Thank you.